Good morning, everybody, and a very warm welcome to the Hungaroring as the cars are taking to the circuit for their second qualifying session of the weekend. 30 minutes to set the grid for the 8th race of the season. We head into the second half of the campaign. Well, it's a warm welcome from Ben Evans as you join us on a very warm morning here just outside Budapest. It is hot, it is humid, and the on-track action promises to be extremely intense because we've got 27 cars who are looking to form the grid for this afternoon's 60-minute race. And we're following Fran Rueda, twice a winner this year, alongside Andres Saravia. He, the Guatemalan driver, always go well on a Sunday, and they are going to be looking to try and take some points off championship leader Michael Mack today, as may Daniele Diamato. He and Andrea Bertolini in the RS Racing Ferrari, showing great pace yesterday, but couldn't quite fight their way through to the podium. In the event, yesterday's race was claimed by Daniel Serra and Marco Ciocci in the Lusit Racing Ferrari, taking the victory ahead of two Pro-Am pairings, with Valentin Pierburg and Tom Onslow Cole finishing in second place, and Fabrizio Cristani, Miguel Ramos completing the podium. Fourth place went to Riccardo Agostini and Rick Broikers, salvaging what was an otherwise disappointing day for the Imperiale Racing Lamborghini team, who lost Jerome Mull early on to contact with Damiano Fioravanti, and then Jiatong Liang was also in the wars, having tangled with the Daiko Lazarus Lamborghini Huracan of Toby Sowry in the early stages, and thereafter just felt as if that car wasn't quite in balance. But today will give us a very different looking grid, I'm sure, because there are lots of very, very quick drivers, the likes of David Perel, Giovanni Venturini, Fernando Reis, who, through a combination of retirement and traffic, didn't perhaps get to show their true hand and true pace yesterday. But today's session, the opportunity for them to qualify well up the grid. There is Miguel Ramos, and Fabrizio Cristani, both former champions, having a great season at the wheel of the Daiko Lazarus Lamborghini Huracan, the sister car, that which we see now of Giuseppe Cipriani and Toby Sowry, also having a superb run yesterday, particularly as Sowry came for the back of the grid. But that is a big moment there for Giuseppe Cipriani, clattering the curbs at turn 4, pirouetting the Lamborghini Huracan. After a while, shows it's not a breeze to drive the Huracan, doesn't it? As he gets up to speed, gets back underway. I don't think he'll have done much more there, other than suffer a little bit of embarrassment and hopefully not done any damage to the Michelin tyre. Here's another look at it. As he turns in to turn 4, just got a little bit greedy with the curb, and it unsettled the car as he landed and was trying to get the power down. Fortunately, tarmac runoff areas, no gravel trap, means that he was able to bring the car back under control, back underway very, very quickly. Pink car there we see, the HTP Motorsport MS Racing Mercedes of Martin Conrad and Alexander Raquina. It's Raquina at the wheel for this session. They won the AM class yesterday as we go in car with Fernando Reis, who didn't get to get behind the wheel at all yesterday, and the wheel of the Umbra Lamborghini Huracan, after the early retirement for Fioravanti, after that coming together with Jerome Mull. Fernando Reis, a very experienced and rapid competitor, and he and Fioravanti have had some good results along the way so far this season. A good qualifying position could well propel them into contention for a first win of the year. So the big unknown, as ever, coming to Sunday morning qualifying is what is the team's tyre situation, other than to say that it's potentially more favourable than most weekends, because yesterday's qualifying session was extremely wet, most of the times getting set in the first 5 minutes of the qualifying period, because then the rain really came down. But what it meant was that nobody used any of their allocation of slick tyres in yesterday's qualifying session. So that is the car that won yesterday's race. Daniel Serra returning to the International GTOpen for the first time in over a decade, partnered with Marco Ciocci. They qualified on pole position, but it was Serra who made the move late on to overtake Valentin Pierburg. Pierburg just got caught behind Stanislav Jedlinski in the Olymp Racing Audi as they came through the final sector, and Serra was able to position himself to slingshot his way past. quickest driver in the session so far is one of the new entries for this weekend. That's the second of the DriveX Mercedes of Caco Bueno, who is at the wheel, a legend of Brazilian stock car racing, in the car that he partners with Ricardo Baptista. But that's not lasted for long. Bradley Ellis now goes quickest in the Optimum Motorsport Audi. He and Ollie Wilkinson beginning to put together a quite steady run in the Pro-Am Championship. They finished 6th in the class yesterday, but netted 2 Pro-Am podiums last time out in Spa. And then 3rd place, Fernando Reis. Not for long, Edoardo Liberati goes quickest at the wheel of the Vincenzo Sospiri Racing Lamborghini that he shares with Kang Ling, and that car was looking great yesterday until Ling was forced into retirement. Meanwhile, a brace of Teo Marti Motorsport BMWs heading towards turn 1. And the first of those is Thiago Marquez, the AM entry that he shares with Marcio Basso. Lorenzo Beirao de Viegra is in pursuit, and that car unfortunately hitting trouble just after the pit stops yesterday. Beirao came out of the pits, and the next time round was ailing and peeled into the pits and out of the race. Beirao and Juan Cruz Alvarez, very handy driver pairing, still chasing the first breakthrough result of the 2018 campaign. Maybe today is the condition for that to come through. And it's been a good run through the first sector for Beirao as Fernando Reis goes quickest, a 1 minute 43.678. Here comes Bradley Ellis, and Ellis on a good lap. He's just got 1 corner to go. Picks up the throttle, accelerates on his way out of the hairpin and across the line, and Ellis goes second, just 14 thousandths of a second adrift of Bradley Ellis. Third now in the session is Michele Rugolo in the Pro-Am Luzic Racing Ferrari that he shares with Alex West. Up to 4th has come Miguel Ramos, and Eduardo Liberati, having had that brief moment of glory, has been shuffled down into 5th. 6th place is Caco Bueno. In 7th, it's Giovanni Ventrini. 8th, Valentin Pierberg. 9th, Daniel Serra. And Thiago Marquez currently completes the top 10. Meanwhile, just emerging from the pits is David Perel, who set pole position in his qualifying run at Spa-Francorchamps a couple of weeks ago. And Perel in the Rinaldi Racing Ferrari, partnering Rinat Salakov this weekend. As Bradley Ellis, not an improvement through the first sector. Meanwhile, a new fastest time in the session coming from Raffaele Gianmaria, the wheel of one of the Imperiale Racing Lamborghini Huracans, and Ellis straight across the chicane there. That's going to cost him the lap. Not optimum from the Audi driver, as we are getting towards the 1/3 point of the session, and it is Gianmaria, very successful competitor through the history of the International GTOpen, who has gone quickest, a 1 minute 43.360. So that's given him an advantage of just over 0.3 of a second on the rest of the field. And then immediately behind it is extraordinarily close. And this is one of the big talking points of the weekend, that in dry running, these cars extremely evenly matched. But because the Hungaroring, it's a narrow circuit, it's one where it's difficult to overtake. We saw in yesterday's race the field very, very tightly bunched throughout much of the afternoon, and certainly from our perspective gave us some great entertainment as they all jostled for position. It was hard work for the drivers. So Gianmaria a little bit off the running on this lap. Fernando Reis remains 2nd, Ellis 3rd, Rugolo 4th, Daniele Diamato has come up to 5th, just ahead of Caco Bueno, then Miguel Ramos, Eduardo Liberati, Giovanni Ventrini and Valentin Pierberg completing the top 10. Daniel Serra, meanwhile, pressing hard. Yesterday's race winner, currently in 11th position. We've not really seen the hand being shown yet of the championship leading Luzic Racing Ferrari as Serra accelerates out of the final corner and across the line goes 6th. The number 51 car in the hands of Alessandro Pierguidi and Mikel Mack. It's Mack who is the championship leader in the 51 Ferrari. And Bradley Ellis has lost the last time that he set through the track limits, but that wasn't his quickest of the session, so it won't bother him. And that is a bit of a moment there for yesterday's runner-up, Valentin Pierberg. And Pierberg gets underway, finds a gear, runs on downhill. Now, has Daniel Serra been able to go any quicker through the early stage of this lap? The timing screen suggests not. The driver who is absolutely flying, though, is Rick Breukers in number 25, the Lamborghini Huracan, who had just set the fastest middle sector of the lap. But Alessandro Pierguidi is also going very well in the background there. Here comes Breukers over the line, and he goes quickest, a 1 minute 42.729, and Breukers takes pole by 0.6 of a second as we follow HRC Bratislava AM class entry. Zdeno Mikulsko at the wheel. Here is Rick Breukers then, and Imperiale Racing didn't have a great day yesterday, as we said at the top of the broadcast, but Breukers and Agostini were always there or thereabouts, and that a great lap from Rick Breukers. Also, Alessandro Pierguidi's just gone 4th in the 51 Lusit Racing Ferrari. Up to 3rd has come Daniele Diamato in the RS Racing Ferrari. And this promises to be a really, really close session. This lap for Breukers not quite as quick as the one which preceded it, but a margin currently of pole position of some 0.6 of a second is a pretty handy advantage for the Dutch driver. Others, though, are looking to improve, including Alessandro Pierguidi. Now, that's Breukers having a little bit of an excursion at turn 4. It's quite a few people out there this morning. They're really attacking the curbs very aggressively, and what it's doing is just destabilising the car and beginning to push it a little bit wide. So Giovanni Venturini has just set the fastest first sector of the session. Alain Kader in the DriveX Mercedes has just set the fastest middle sector. So how long this pole mark is going to last for Rick Breukers, we will find out. Meanwhile, here is Alessandro Pierguidi. Pierguidi a little bit off the pole position mark so far on this lap. As the DriveX Mercedes of Alain Kader comes past and goes second, a 142.7 for Kader, 55 thousandths of a second off pole position. Now, where does Alessandro Pierguidi fit into all of this? He goes third, a 1 minute 43.2. But here's Giovanni Venturini, and Venturini is up through both the first 2 sectors on the lap. He's behind one of the Teo Martin Motorsport BMWs, and Venturini crosses the line, goes third, 0.3 off pole in the event. I think he just got caught up behind that BMW through the final sector. So Rick Breukers retains that pole position just by 55 thousandths from Alain Kader. Then Venturini 3rd, Alessandro Pierguidi 4th, Raffaele Giammaria 5th, 6th is Daniele Diamato, 7th Fernando Reis, 8th Bradley Ellis, 9th Michele Rugolo, and Zdeno Mikulsko leads the AM class in 10th. Here comes Fran Rueda, meanwhile, and this is potentially going to be Rueda's best lap of the session. It's going to be very, very close for pole position as well, judging by those splits. And it is 3rd for Rueda, a 1,000th of a second quicker than Giovanni Venturini. So Fran Rueda, just over 0.3 adrift of pole position. But it's Alain Kader, whom we might want to try and find. The DriveX Mercedes, rather, of the Brazilian, has gone quicker than anybody else through the middle sector once more. He only needs to find 0.05 of a second. He's turning into the final corner now. Here he is then. Out of the final turn, accelerates on his way. And that is pole position for Kader, 1 minute 42.633, 96 thousandths of a second in the event, up on Rick Breukers as we hit the halfway point in the session. Meanwhile, Marcin Jedlinski in the Olymp Audi has just gone 7th in car 77. Level of symmetry there. Looking down the order, where are the other improvements going to be coming from? Thiago Marquez has improved in the AM class. He's gone 18th. Eduardo Liberati to 13th, and Vincenzo Spiri Racing Lamborghini. This is Kader's 3rd fast lap of the run, so I just wonder whether or not he... certainly the angle of the DriveX Mercedes suggests that he's still going for it, as he and Marcello Hahn, well up there in the Pro-Am Championship. And this is a circuit that really does seem to suit the Mercedes. Just going to be closing up, though, to Zdeno Mikulsko before too long. Runs a little bit wide out of turn 10, and no improvement either for Kader through the middle sector. He's only a tenth of a second or so off that pole position mark. Chance to enjoy the absolutely immaculate DriveX Mercedes through the chicane, launching over the curbs. Now here is the 33 Rinaldi Racing Ferrari of Christian Hook. He and Daniel Karlwitz finishing third in the Pro-Am class yesterday. And Hook doing a superb job late on in the race under sustained pressure. He's currently 25th though. And he will look to try and improve from there, but he's not up through the first sector on the lap. And at the moment, the bulk of the field are in the pits, indeed including Kader. A little bit of conference ongoing. This is always the debate, isn't it? Do you go out for another run and see what you can do? We're in car, meanwhile, with Fernando Reis, who was, of course, our early pole sitter. He's now been shuffled down to 9th. This is an out lap for the Brazilian, the Ombra Racing Lamborghini Huracan. Get a sense that it's an out lap. You can see he's just giving the curbs a wide berth, not overexerting the Michelin tire that they all run on at this stage of the session. That lap, by the way, that we started with Christian Hook, he did improve slightly, went up to 24th position as Reis begins to build the pace through turn 10. Here is Miguel Ramos. Ramos currently 16th position. And the thing about he and Fabrizio Crestani is that they are just so consistent during the races that this car always seems to find itself coming into contention. You never quite expect it to. And then suddenly it's there or thereabouts on the podium and always racking up those Pro-Am Championship points. So approaching the 2/3 point of this qualifying session, and cars beginning to venture back out of the pits, ready for a final run and a final shot at pole position. So it's currently Kader from Breukers, then Fran Rueda, Giovanni Venturini, Alessandro Pierguidi, Raffaele Giammaria, Marcin Jedlinski, Daniele Diamato in 8th, Fernando Reis in 9th, and Bradley Ellis completing the top 10. Around the final hairpin then for Miguel Ramos. And the acceleration along the start and finish straight. So Fernando Reis has posted a personal best first sector. Bradley Ellis has posted the best first sector of anybody. So the Lamborghini and the Audi out on the far side of the circuit, both going strongly. Ramos hoping to launch into a flying lap as well now at this point. That last lap was his best of the session, a 1:44.022. Keeping, however, the Portuguese driver in 16th position. This is Marcin Jedlinski. We've not seen much of the Olymp Racing Audi, but Jedlinski, another driver who's having a very good first sector on this lap, currently 7th overall. Very distinctively liveried Olymp Racing Audi. And we're going to see a glut of improvements. Ellis is certainly one of them. Jedlinski, possibly not. Here is Bradley Ellis as he runs uphill into the final turn. Ellis, a former British GT champion, picking up the throttle. Now, where is this going to leave him in the grand scheme of things? It's good enough for 4th position for Bradley Ellis, a 1:42.802, 0.1 of a second, 1.9 of a second back. The lap for Fernando Reis, though, is a little bit better, and Reis goes 3rd, a 1:42.763. So we've got the top 4 cars covered by just over 1.5 tenths of a second. And now the field are all out on track and all pushing hard. We've got a disallowed track time for Luis Silva, and that was his best time of the session, Silva, in the Sporting U Mercedes. So he's going to lose probably that 23rd place on the grid, but still 9.5 minutes to play with. Daniel Serra goes third now at 1 minute 42.751. David Perel up into 8th in the Rinaldi Racing Ferrari, 1 minute 43.091. The top 8 cars covered by just 4.5 tenths of a second. The top 5 covered by under 2 tenths, and Daniel Serra is continuing to have a good run here. He's just 200ths off the pace through the first sector. Fernando Reis also having a very good lap in the Ombra Racing Lamborghini, and fractional improvements here could be absolutely decisive. And the Luzit Racing Ferrari, Daniel Serra, they've already had success this weekend with victory yesterday. Runs a little bit wide coming out of turn 10. That won't have delayed him too much as Fernando Reis goes second past that commentary box. Reis second at 1 minute 42.7. And that's just 75 thousandths of a second off the pole position mark, still in the hands of Alam Kader. And what can Daniel Serra do? There is Reis, who is second, but for how long? As Daniel Serra takes pole position, Serra 1 minute 42.514, and that gives him pole by just over a tenth of a second. So Serra pulling the pace out of nowhere. More to contemplate for the teams on the pit wall. Super consistent lap there for Daniel Serra. And it just starts to stretch the field ever so slightly. Still those some quick drivers who are out on track and chasing improvements, one of whom is Rick Breukers, who's about to come past us, a complete what thus far has been his best lap of the session. He's in 4th, 2 tenths adrift to pole position. So Alessandro Pierguidi has just also come past us into 10th. And Rick Breukers goes second, just 12 thousandths of a second adrift of Daniel Serra. And this is a real shootout for pole position. So the current order is Serra, Breukers, Kader, then Fernando Reis in 4th, Bradley Ellis is 5th, Raffaele Gianria in 6th, 7th for Fran Rueda, 8th to Giovanni Venturini, 9th to David Perel, and 10th for Alessandro Pierguidi. Here is Giovanni Venturini. Venturini's on an out lap at the moment. So the reigning champion for the International GTOpen. Also just behind him on an out lap is Fran Rueda and Lorenzo Beirão de Viega. Now David Perel flashing his headlights to get one of the Vincenzo Suspiria Racing Lamborghinis to move aside. Perel, very good through the first sector on this lap. The middle sector, not his best. Still, he's in the hunt and thereabouts. Would quite like to clear that Lamborghini as he accelerates across the line. And David Perel improves to 7th at 1 minute 43.028. So half a second back from where he would ideally want to be, which is pole position. Michele Rigolo, meanwhile, has gone 10th at 1 minute 43.1. Alessandro Pierguidi on a good lap now in the championship leading Luzit Racing Ferrari. Pierguidi coming towards the end of that tour of the circuit. Reis is going well through the first sector. Rick Breukers through the middle sector as Pierguidi does come past but doesn't improve his grid position. Still in 12th, 1 minute 43.208. Caco Bueno, meanwhile, in the second of the DriveX Mercedes. He's in amongst the traffic, scything through, and Fernando Reis just behind them as Rick Breukers has gone into pole position by 2 thousandths of a second. So Rick Breukers leading the way now, 2 thousandths of a second up on Daniel Serra. This lap from Caco Bueno delivers him an improvement to 15th. And once more, very tight at the top. The top 4 separated by just under 2 tenths of a second. lots of drivers pressing on through the field. Stefano Constantini in the Target Racing Lamborghini. Alberto Di Folco, his co-driver, was right in the thick of the action until he had an entanglement with Kang Ling in yesterday's race. Now here is Alam Kader. Kader up through the first two sectors on the lap. He's got limited traffic ahead of him. He's just going to catch one of the Rinaldi Racing Ferraris. Whether or not that's going to delay him, we shall see. It's Christian Hook whom he is pursuing. And Kader, has he been able to take advantage of the new tyres? He accelerates out to the final corner, across the line, and it is pole position to Alam Kader by almost 0.2 of a second. So great lap for the DriveX Mercedes and the Brazilian pilot of it. So the order now: Kader from Breukers, then Serra. Alessandro Pierguidi has leapt up into fourth. Fernando Reis in fifth. Bradley Ellis in sixth. Raffaele Giammaria seventh. Edoardo Liberati in eighth. Daniele Diamato in ninth. Fran Rueda goes second with a 1 minute 42.355, 39 thousandths of a second back for Fran Rueda. So it is currently Mercedes, BMW, Lamborghini, Ferrari in the top four places on the grid. Now here is Rueda. Alam Kader has completely backed out of his lap as Rueda got the chance to go for one more and find something. He's certainly got clear track around him. Spaniard accelerating towards turn four. This has caught a couple of people out in qualifying so far this morning. Not Rueda, and he's up through sector one. Talking tiny margins, and he needs to find more, Rueda, because he's actually lost that best time for track limits through turn one. So that has pitched Rueda back down to 11th overall. 2.5 minutes left on the clock. Alessandro Pierguidi unlikely to improve on this lap. BMW's leaving it until late. Pierguidi picks his way uphill. Maybe he has got one more lap in the tyres. We shall see. Meanwhile, here comes Fran Rueda. And Rueda was up through the first sector, a little bit off through the middle sector. That said, if he finishes the lap 0.2 off the pace, it's still going to be good enough to put him onto the second row of the grid. So let's see. It's not quite as good as his previous lap, but that was lost for track limits. This one, it's good enough for fourth to Rueda, 0.26 of a second adrift. Behind Serra, Breukers and Kader. Less than a lap time remains in the session. And of our expected front runners, most of them are now back into the pits, having set what would appear to have been their best times of the session. Meanwhile, Caco Bueno in the DriveX Mercedes comes past us, goes 13th. Giovanni Venturini is on an out lap at the moment, so he's going to get one shot to try and, or he would have done if he'd not peeled into the pit, so he is likely to line up in 12th. Fran Rueda, a little bit adrift of the pace through sector one. See what he can achieve through sector two. Daniele Diamato, though, is on a flying lap, and he needs to be on one. Oh, he was on a flying lap. Makes a slight mistake in the RS Racing Ferrari, and that kicks him out wide through turn 8. And he will lose that time for track limits if he were to make an improvement. And he's not going to come across the line. You know, backs out 1.8 seconds. He's not going to cross the line either with enough time for another shot. So he is going to line up at best in 10th position as the clock ticks down. Well, I say that Diamato's not going to have time for one more shot. He may just sneak past. It's going to be an incredibly finely run thing, but he creeps across the line just as the checker flag comes out, and Daniele Diamato, here's another look at that mistake, is going to squeeze one final lap out of the session. So the checker flag is out. Edoardo Liberati is on a quick lap. Here is Alam Kader, who for the moment is our pole sitter for the 8th race of the season. The DriveX Mercedes team. They managed that session absolutely perfectly. Rick Breukers then in 2nd place, Daniel Serra 3rd, Fran Rueda 4th. Now what can Daniele Diamato do? The answer through the first sector is not a huge amount, but he's got an empty track. So if he's able to stay within 58 thousandths of a second, that's certainly going to get him on to the front row of the grid. Catch the Sporting U Mercedes and Luis Silva, possibly between now and the end of the lap. He's avoided the moment he had a while ago. Oh, he's run out a little bit wide through turn 10. And he has given away a fair chunk of time as well through the middle sector as a result. So he's half a second adrift, catches one of the Vincenzo Sospiri Racing Ferraris as he navigates turn 11 uphill. Diamato, his best lap was 0.6 of a second adrift, and that is not going to be a better lap. He slithers out wide. So across the line we go. And that pretty much brings the session to a close. Diamato trying very, very hard late on. And just had to back out of it through the final turn, lest he spin the car around. So it is pole position for the 8th race of the season to Alain Cadet and the DriveX Mercedes team. Really, really good set of laps from the Brazilian. He is very, and rightly, pleased with that one. 2nd place to Rick Breukers, with the race 1 winner, Daniel Serra, into 3rd. So Rick Breukers, Riccardo Agostini having a very impressive weekend so far at the wheel of the Imperiale Racing Lamborghini, and they won't have success seconds to worry about in the race later on. So look at how they qualified. Pole position to Cadet, 2nd to Rick Breukers, 3rd for race 1 winner Daniel Serra. Fran Rueda in 4th, and Teo Martin Motorsport BMW, head of the championship leading Luzic Racing Ferrari in the hands of Alessandro Pierguidi in 5th. Fernando Reis in 6th for the Ombra Racing Lamborghini squad. Bradley Ellis, the 2nd the Pro-Am qualifiers, 7th overall for Optima Motorsport, head of Eduardo Liberati, well up in the Vincenzo Sospiri Racing Lamborghini. Raffaele Giamma, the 3rd of the Pro-Am qualifiers, in 9th, head of Daniele Diamato, who just couldn't quite capitalise on those quick laps and an empty track late on in the session. David Perel then in 11th, clear of Giovanni Venturini. Then Michele Rugolo and Stefano Constantini will line up on row 7, clear of Marcin Jedlinski and Lorenzo Berau de Viega. Thiago Marquez, AM class pole position to the Brazilian in the Teo Martin Motorsport BMW, 17th overall, up ahead of Caco Bueno and Valentin Pierberg, with Zdeno Michalsko, then the 2nd of the AM qualifiers, completing the top 20. Miguel Ramos in 21st, head of Andrei Lewandowski, then Giuseppe Cipriani, Luis Silva, Christian Hook, Alexandra Aquina, Stanislav Jedlinski. So we will be back about 2 o'clock Central European time this afternoon for the 8th race of the International GTOpen season. Until then, it's goodbye from the Hungaroring.
Alam Kodair, a very